Hello everyone, and welcome to Learn English Through Stories. I'm so happy you're here today. If you want to improve your English in a fun and natural way, you're in the right place. Today's story is full of mystery, emotion, and surprises. As you listen, you'll learn new vocabulary, improve your pronunciation, and become more confident in English. Don't worry if you don't understand every single word. Just relax, enjoy the story, and let your English improve naturally. Now, make yourself comfortable, take a deep breath, and let's begin today's story. One rainy evening, Emily had always believed that every ordinary day could hide an extraordinary story. While most people hurried home after work, she enjoyed walking slowly through the quiet streets of her small town, especially when it rained. The sound of raindrops on the sidewalks made her feel peaceful, and the cool evening air helped her forget the stress of the office. Every Friday, without exception, she visited the old public library before going home. The building was more than 100 years old. Its wooden floors creaked with every step. The tall shelves seemed to touch the ceiling, and every corner smelled of old paper, polished wood, and forgotten memories. It was Emily's favorite place in the world. As she pushed open the heavy wooden door, a small silver bell rang above her head. "Good evening, Emily," said the librarian with his usual warm smile. Mr. Harris had worked in the library for as long as anyone could remember. His gray hair was neatly combed, his glasses rested low on his nose, and he always wore a dark green sweater, no matter the season. "Good evening, Mr. Harris," Emily replied. "You came just in time." "For what?" she asked with a smile. "I think a certain book has been waiting for you." Emily laughed. "You always know how to make this place feel magical. Maybe the library does that all by itself." She smiled politely and walked toward the back of the building, where the oldest books were kept. Very few visitors entered that section anymore. Most people preferred modern novels or digital books, but Emily loved the forgotten shelves, where dusty stories patiently waited for new readers. As she slowly examined the books, something unusual caught her eye. Between two large dictionaries sat a small dark blue book. It had no title, no author's name, no picture on the cover. It looked strangely new, yet it was covered with a thin layer of dust. Emily carefully picked it up. "That's odd," she whispered. She opened the first page. There was only one handwritten sentence. "If you finish this book before midnight, you will discover a secret that has been waiting for you for many years." Emily smiled. Someone has a wonderful imagination. She looked around, expecting to find a note explaining that it was part of a game or an old library tradition. There was nothing. She carried the mysterious book to the front desk. "I'd like to borrow this one." Mr. Harris looked at the cover for a long second. "I thought you might choose that book. You've seen it before?" He smiled, but did not answer directly. "Take good care of it." "I always do." "And don't forget to finish it tonight." Emily laughed. "You sound very serious." "Some books should never be left unfinished." She thanked him, placed the book inside her bag, opened her umbrella, and walked home beneath the falling rain. The streets were almost empty. Street lights reflected on the wet pavement like tiny golden stars. A cool wind moved through the trees, carrying the fresh smell of rain. Emily loved evenings like this. When she arrived home, she changed into comfortable clothes, made herself a cup of hot tea, turned on a small lamp beside the sofa, and sat near the window. The rain tapped softly against the glass. It was the perfect evening to read. She opened the book again. The story began with a young woman named Emma. Emma worked in an office. She lived alone. She loved rainy evenings. And every Friday, she visited an old library. Emily smiled. "That's an interesting coincidence." She continued reading. Emma's apartment had blue curtains. Emily looked toward her own window. Blue curtains. Emma owned an old wooden coffee table with a small scratch on one corner. Emily slowly looked at her own table. The same scratch. She frowned. This is getting strange. The next page described a tiny green plant sitting beside the window. Emily turned her head. Her little plant stood exactly where the book described. Her smile slowly disappeared. This isn't funny anymore. She placed the book on the table and walked around her apartment. Everything seemed perfectly normal. The clock ticked quietly. The refrigerator hummed in the kitchen. Rain continued falling outside. She laughed nervously. It's just a coincidence. Still curious, she picked up the book again. Emma looked at the wall clock. It read exactly Aprender, 8:17. Emily immediately looked at her own clock. 8:17. Her heartbeat became a little faster. Emma suddenly heard 3 gentle knocks on her apartment door. Knock, knock, knock. Emily froze. Exactly 3 knocks echoed through her apartment. She stared at the front door. No one spoke. She slowly walked across the room. "Who's there?" she asked. Silence. She unlocked the door. The hallway was empty. Not a single person. Only the sound of rain drifting through an open window at the end of the corridor. Emily closed the door quickly and leaned against it. Her breathing had become noticeably faster. She looked down at the book. Her hands were shaking slightly. The next sentence read. Emma smiled because she already knew nobody would be outside. Emily whispered, "How could anyone know that?" She returned to the sofa, unable to look away from the mysterious pages. The story continued. Emma discovered an envelope hidden inside the book. Emily carefully turned the next page. An envelope slipped onto her lap. She gasped. With trembling fingers, she opened it. Inside was a single sheet of paper. The message was short. "Please keep reading. The answer is closer than you think." Emily read it twice. There was no signature, no date, nothing else. She suddenly remembered what Mr. Harris had said. "Don't leave it unfinished." She looked at the clock. Only 8:40. Still plenty of time before midnight. She took another sip of tea. It had already become cold. Outside, thunder rumbled softly across the dark sky. Emily pulled a blanket over her shoulders and continued reading. Little by little, the story revealed more details about Emma's childhood. She had spent countless afternoons reading books with her best friend. They had laughed together, dreamed about traveling the world, and promised never to forget each other. Emily stopped reading. A memory returned to her mind. She had made exactly the same promise when she was 12 years old. Her best friend had been Sarah. They had planted a small metal box beneath an old oak tree just outside town. Inside the box, they had placed photographs, letters, tiny treasures, and a promise to return together every 10 years. Emily closed her eyes. "I completely forgot." She couldn't remember the last time she had thought about Sarah. Life had simply become too busy. The book continued. Emma decided to visit the old oak tree immediately, even though the rain had become heavier. Emily looked outside. The rain showed no sign of stopping. She whispered, almost to herself, "This can't be real." Yet deep inside, she already knew she was going to the tree. She grabbed her coat, put on her boots, and opened her umbrella once more. The cold wind hit her face as she stepped outside. The streets were completely deserted now. Every house had its lights on, but no one was outside. It felt as if the entire town had disappeared, leaving only Emily and the rain. She walked quickly, her heart pounding with a mixture of fear and excitement. The old oak tree stood on a small hill just beyond the town's limits. Emily hadn't visited that place in over 15 years. As she approached, she noticed something strange. A light was flickering beneath the tree. Someone was already there. Her footsteps slowed. She stopped a few meters away and stared through the heavy rain. A figure stood beside the tree, holding a small flashlight. The person wore a yellow raincoat and black boots. Emily's throat tightened. "Hello," she called out. The figure turned around. Emily's heart stopped. It was Sarah. Sarah looked exactly as Emily remembered her. The same warm eyes, the same curly brown hair, the same gentle smile that had always made Emily feel safe. But there was something different about her expression. A sadness, a longing, as if she had been waiting for this moment for a very long time. "Emily," Sarah said softly, her voice barely audible over the sound of the rain. "Sarah, is it really you?" Emily stepped closer, her legs feeling weak. "I didn't think you'd come," Sarah admitted. "How did you know I would be here?" Sarah pointed to the small blue book Emily was still holding. "I wrote that book." Emily froze. You wrote it?" "I wrote it for you," Sarah said, her voice trembling. "I've been writing it for years. Every time I missed you, I added another page. I knew that someday you would find it. I left it at the library last week. Mr. Harris helped me." Emily's mind raced. She looked down at the book in her hands. "But how did you know about my apartment? About the curtains, the table, the plant?" Sarah smiled sadly. "I visited you once, a few years ago. You were at work, but I looked through your window. I saw everything. I wanted to knock on your door, but I was too scared. I thought you had forgotten about me." Tears mixed with raindrops on Emily's cheeks. "I didn't forget you. Life got complicated." "Life gets complicated for everyone," Sarah said. "But promises shouldn't be broken." She knelt down beside the oak tree and began digging with her hands. "Wait," Emily said, kneeling beside her. "Let me help." Together, they dug through the wet soil until their fingers touched something metal. The box. It was rusted and dirty, but still intact. Sarah carefully lifted it from the ground. "Do you remember what we put inside?" Sarah asked. Emily nodded, her voice catching. "Photographs, letters, treasures, and a promise." Sarah opened the lid. Inside, exactly as they had left it, were their childhood memories. A faded photo of two girls laughing, a handwritten letter promising eternal friendship, a small, colorful stone Emily had found by the river, and a piece of paper with the words, "We will meet here again, every 10 years, forever." Emily picked up the letter with trembling hands. She had completely forgotten about this promise, but Sarah hadn't. Sarah had kept it alive for all these years. "Sarah, I'm so sorry," Emily whispered. "I didn't come back. I broke my promise." Sarah looked at her with tear-filled eyes. "You're here now. That's what matters." They sat beneath the oak tree, sheltered from the rain by its large branches. The storm continued to rage, but neither of them wanted to leave. For a long time, they just sat in silence, looking at their old photographs and letters. Finally, Sarah spoke. "There's something I need to tell you." Emily looked at her. "I've been sick," Sarah continued, "for a long time. That's why I decided to write the book. I needed you to find me before it was too late." Emily's blood ran cold. "Sick? How sick?" Sarah lowered her eyes. "The doctors say I don't have much time. A few months, maybe less." Tears poured down Emily's face. "No. Sarah, no. I didn't want to tell you this way," Sarah said gently. "But I didn't know how else to reach you. I tried calling. I tried writing letters. But you had moved, changed your number, changed your life. You were so far away." Emily took Sarah's hands in hers. "I'm here now. I'm not going anywhere." Sarah smiled through her tears. "That's all I ever wanted to hear." They held each other for a long time, the rain falling around them like a curtain, shielding them from the rest of the world. When they finally pulled apart, Sarah looked at the book. "Did you finish reading it?" "Not yet," Emily admitted. "Then finish it," Sarah said softly. "The end is the most important part." Emily opened the book to the last pages. The story of Emma continued. Emma had finally reunited with her best friend beneath the old oak tree. She had discovered that her friend was sick, but instead of sadness, they had felt an overwhelming sense of peace because they had found each other again. And in the final sentence, the book said, Emma realized that the secret she had been searching for all her life was not a place, an object, or a forgotten treasure. It was the love of her best friend, a love that had never faded, never disappeared, and never stopped waiting for her. Emily closed the book. She looked at Sarah, who was smiling gently. "That's the secret," Sarah whispered. "Love doesn't end just because time passes or people grow apart. It waits. It always waits." Emily hugged her tightly. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you for writing this book. Thank you for bringing me back." They stayed beneath the oak tree until the rain finally stopped. The clouds parted, revealing a sky full of stars. It was past midnight now. They had missed the deadline to finish the book before midnight. But somehow, Emily understood that it didn't matter. The secret had already revealed itself. They walked back into town together, their shoulders touching, their hands intertwined. The streets were still empty, but now it felt peaceful instead of lonely. When they reached Sarah's house, Emily stopped. "Can I see you tomorrow?" she asked. Sarah smiled brightly. "I'd love that. Then I'll be here, at 9 in the morning. It's a date." Emily hugged her friend one last time and watched as Sarah disappeared inside her house. Then she walked home, the small blue book still in her hands. When she arrived, she placed the book on her coffee table beside the tiny green plant. She looked at the clock. 1:23 a.m. She smiled. The next morning, she woke up early and went straight to Sarah's house. They spent the entire day together, talking, laughing, and remembering. They visited the library. Mr. Harris smiled when he saw them both. "I knew that book would bring you back together," he said. They went to the old oak tree again, this time under a bright blue sky. They promised to meet every week from now on, and every Friday evening, Emily would still visit the library. But now, she wouldn't go alone. Sarah would be with her. Months passed. Sarah's health slowly declined, but her spirit remained strong. Emily never left her side. She visited her every day. She read to her. She held her hand. She loved her. One quiet evening, Sarah looked at Emily with peaceful eyes. "Thank you for coming back," she whispered. "Thank you for writing the book," Emily replied, tears in her eyes. Sarah smiled. "Promise me something." "Anything. Promise me you'll never stop believing in extraordinary stories hidden in ordinary days." Emily squeezed her hand. "I promise." Sarah closed her eyes and took a gentle breath, and with a soft smile on her face, she drifted away peacefully. Emily wept, but she also smiled, because she knew that Sarah's love would never leave her. It was written in the pages of a small blue book. It was planted beneath an old oak tree, and it lived forever in her heart. A few months later, Emily sat in the library, surrounded by the smell of old paper and polished wood. Mr. Harris approached her with a kind smile. "Are you all right?" he asked. Emily looked up and nodded. "I'm fine." She looked at the small blue book in her hands. Its pages were worn from reading. The cover was creased, but it was still her most treasured possession. "Can I ask you something?" Emily said. "Of course." "How did you know that book would change my life?" Mr. Harris smiled mysteriously. because Sarah showed it to me years ago. She told me everything. She asked me to make sure you found it one day." Emily's eyes widened. "All this time, you knew?" Mr. Harris nodded. "Some stories take time to reach the right reader, and some books are written by love itself." Emily smiled and hugged the book close to her chest. "Thank you, Mr. Harris." "Thanks, Sarah," he said softly. "She never gave up on you." Emily looked out the window. The sky was gray, and raindrops were beginning to fall. Another rainy evening. But this time, Emily didn't feel alone. She felt Sarah's presence everywhere. In the rain, in the library, in the pages of the book. She stood up, walked to the front desk, and placed the book on the counter. "I'd like to donate this," she said. Mr. Harris raised an eyebrow. "Are you sure?" Emily nodded. "Maybe one day someone else will find it. Someone who needs to remember a promise. Someone who needs to find someone they've lost." Mr. Harris accepted the book with a gentle smile. "I'll make sure it finds its way to the right person." Emily left the library and walked home through the rain. She smiled as the raindrops touched her face, and she whispered to the sky, "Thank you, Sarah, for everything." The rain seemed to fall a little softer after that, as if the sky itself was embracing her. And so, Emily continued living her life. But she never forgot the lesson of the small blue book. Every ordinary day, she looked for the extraordinary. Every rainy evening, she remembered the friend who loved her. And every time she visited the library, she passed by the section of forgotten books. She never found another mysterious volume. But she didn't need to. The story she had found was enough. It was a story about love, about promises, about never giving up on the people who matter most. And that was the most beautiful story of all. If you enjoyed this story, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to hit the notification bell so you never miss a new story. Thank you for watching.